this any better?
Yes.
Wonderful. 1 minute and counting, stretch whatever you need to do for another minute. Sorry. So it's officially 9 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting to order. Out of respect to all here, please remove any hats and all hats. Please silence your cell phones.
Please be a little bit louder.
I speak softly. So let's go ahead and please rise for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So do we have anybody taping this meeting other than one individual that was already identified? Any others? Hands raised. We're going to go ahead and move on to approval of the minutes. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes. Move a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I actually have something. I spoke to Ms. Roberta yesterday, and she indicated to me that she did let the past president know that she would not be here. So we're going to change her from absent to excused on the minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She was not feeling well. We hope she feels better. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to try to keep this meeting moving right along. We've got a couple of hard stops this morning, and so if you see a couple of board members stepping a little bit, we've got some other things pending. So we're going to see if we can keep this meeting down to hopefully an hour and a half. Still can hear? Someone keeps moving the mic on me. What I was saying was we're going to try to get this meeting to occur in an hour and 30 minutes. So we're going to try to keep the agenda moving right along. So we don't have any correspondence under the reports. No reports.
As we had already discussed, we were getting bids on the gatehouse. We got bids, and then we added some things to where we had to get the bids redone. So we do have those bids now. So we know the cold, the employees are out there in the cold. There's a heater that Peter put in the house, the gatehouse, instead of that iron ice box, and to help. But the bids are not completely ridiculous, but they do vary a bit. I know Dave Henry had something. Did you want to talk on a third bid?
Yes, we had a late entry to a company that wants to come in and give us a third quote. We're going to try to get them there this week if we possibly can, just to see if we're in the ballpark of the other two. They seem like they also provide a full package of an architect. They can manage all the permits. They can manage all the subs. So we're going to try to, without delaying progress, we're going to try to see if we can squeak them in to quickly give us a third quote, just so we can feel good about the first two. Having two is not as good as having three. What we did is Jane mentioned, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, we did ask for quotes to be modified to add insulation, double pane windows, so that, and that we are going through cold spells and or hot summers, that we can keep the temperature in the building a little bit more manageable. And there's a few other adjustments to the bids, and hope to maybe even get together with Peter and whoever else is available tomorrow, along with Arlene, to go through the fine points of each of these bids. We just got the last bid yesterday morning, so we're trying to digest all of that as well. But we're trying to move this along. But our intent is to do it right and not fast. That doesn't necessarily signal that we're trying to look for a delay either. We just want to make sure we're doing it right, because otherwise, we all know what happens. 6 months down the road, we're doing it again. So we just want to try to make sure we're doing the right thing. Go ahead. Yeah. No, of course, in the workshop. Yes, please. Everybody's got to get their steps in today.
I'll just yell because there's no one here. But anyways, so you're gonna get a third bid. And
Name
then
and
it's gonna
unit
be another
number.
one. Oh, you're tomorrow. You people don't know me? No, I got it.
Now I'm on. Sandy Trouble Lewis, Unit 1. You're gonna get a third bid, so that means it's gonna be another month before we know the amount of the bids and which one we're going to go with.
No, I don't think it has to happen that way, but it's a great question. So we intend to review the quotes. Like I said, we're going to try to arrange for a meeting tomorrow. We're going to try to bring in, potentially the contractor that seems to have the best price within 7-10 days, perhaps, so that we can go through the quote with them and make sure that we understand exactly what they're going to do. We don't have to wait for the next board meeting to vote on a quote, so we can put together a modified, is it word modified?
Limited agenda.
We can put together a limited agenda board meeting so that we can have a forum and a vote on it, so we can move this thing right along. So again, we're not trying to do it fast, we want to do it right, but we're not waiting for 30 days just because that's what typically seems like would happen.
Yeah. The other thing is, I've heard, because I hear all the rumors anyways, that there's a possibility of the guard check having to be moved back when the development opens up.
That's not been in any of our plans or conversation. I've heard that lingered out there, that we should move it based on the upcoming, development, but at this point, that's not in our plan.
Okay, because it's a lot of money to spend of having to move the building.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm not aware, unless there's been any conversation, with the developer that said that, or the county that said we have to move it. We've not heard anybody tell us that it has to be moved.
Just
We've heard
asking.
opinions.
Mike Rulo, Unit 6. I know we haven't reviewed the bids completely, like there's 2 you said?
We have two.
Okay, and a third one. Have you had a quick look at the timeline that's been indicated? Have you had a look at the timelines indicated in the 2 bids you have received?
Honestly, I just got the second bid yesterday morning. Didn't have time to go through it. That's why we want to have a meeting tomorrow to go through each of the bids and then call the contractors themselves and invite them to a conversation so that we can walk through all the particulars of their quotes.
Okay. Based on that, and presumably it's not going to take a few weeks. How many months? Is there any way of putting the barcode labels back in service? Because that doesn't need human intervention to activate the bars. And I presume they're in working order.
Theoretically, that's a great question. I did ask Arlene to reach out to the gate company. I don't know if we had any feedback from them yet.
We did, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Peter's not here. They actually left to go back to the office, EC Solutions. They are meeting him this morning, that confirmed for this morning for the electric, because everything's working, it's just that the power is off. So he explained to them yesterday everything that we needed, so he's meeting with them this morning to see if we can at least get the electric back to the gate and the unit so this way we can get it working again. Because we realize it is a concern for many residents, so.
Okay, I've got a question too, Arlene.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the button for manually making the gate go up if the barcodes don't read or whatever is disabled right now. So are they gonna be able to re-able that?
I can't answer yes or no, but Peter did, when he spoke to them yesterday, he did indicate to them, what our system is. And they have worked out there before, so they do know it. So we do hope, yes, they will be able to have the little switch still, in case it doesn't work.
Because if they don't have that
Right,
switch
it's kind of
available,
pointless, right?
then it's just gonna cause them that.
Right, or especially if an ambulance or fire truck comes through, of course. But yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure we don't end up with an unintended consequence, but we did ask to see if there's anything we can do to possibly get that gate up and running while we try to work through the particulars on the gatehouse.
Hi, Dan Linares, Unit 4. As far as the gate, you're talking like if the lane is closed now, we're not going to get into that lane anymore as residents?
So there had been concerns that we had left the member or resident lane open at night without the barcode reader and not being able to sort of control our environment. And it's also become sort of a safety hazard at night. So we are closing that lane at dark at about 5:30 so that we can try to make sure all incoming activity comes through the left-hand side, but it's only during the dark hours. And then talking to Peter, it's been quite a mess out there.
Yes,
It's a
and
mess.
you're going to have an accident. I'll tell you what, the reason I'm saying this is that the sign that you posted, the detour sign, is posted right at the entrance. Okay, people are coming in, and we're all coming in like we're coming in through the barcode line. Okay, and we're creating a big bottleneck. All right, and people are fighting to get over into the lane. Us residents are fighting to get into the development. Okay,
Well,
now we don't know when the gate is closed because when I came in yesterday, it was daylight, and the lane was closed. I'm saying, what, and I didn't know it was closed. I was in the right lane where I'm supposed to be. And here I am, I'm getting up and come to find out, boom, there's a sign up at the gate. So you tried, yeah, it needs to be further communication, way further back.
good point.
Before we come in, because there's definitely going to be an accident there if you continue that. Because that lane was all the way back to, last night was all the way back, what, 100 feet from the light.
Understood.
So, yeah.
We could talk to Peter about that. I did talk to him earlier, just before the meeting started, to see if there was any way possible we can maybe keep that second lane open until maybe 9 o'clock at night, but he feels that based on the safety and people kind of driving kind of interesting at best.
Yeah, well, I would assume they get aggravated standing out there too, you're not knowing what the problem is.
So I think we can focus on better signage and make sure we have the cones in the right place. But in respect of our staff and trying to keep them safe, we're going to keep to one lane at dark for now. I did send a note to Arlene this morning to say maybe we can go to Sam's and get some outdoor patio heaters and try to keep our staff warm. It's just it's
Yeah, it's a shame.
difficult time to do stuff like
I don't think I don't see the reasoning that, I had a totally different view about it, but it's way too late for that scenario. So, but anyway, that's my concern is that we're gonna have an accident there and it's gonna be our deal. Okay, somebody's gonna come and sue Brookridge here because of that accident.
Yeah.
The way the signage is.
No, I appreciate I appreciate your feedback. We're, at the same time, trying to avoid an accident with a vehicle. We're also trying to keep our staff safe so they don't get run over.
Fully understand.
Because we've had a couple instances recently where people sort of come flying through there
Yeah.
and it's not safe. So that's why we're trying to see if we can get those gates up and running ASAP without any unintended consequence. And then we want to try to move forward on this guardhouse.
Okay, no, they just needs to be addressed that it's at night. That way people are aware because I came through with daylight and the gate was closed. Two employees sitting on near the side of waving people, waving people. Now they're going. So, what we're doing,
Appreciate it. All right, thank you very much. Yes.
Paul Harrison, Unit 4. Like to get updates. We're paying $700 a month to rent that shack out there. We're going into our 4th month of it. And as we, this is coming out of our reserves or operating fund. How long is this gonna last? We're working on an austerity budget right now for last year.
So great question. I don't know if you were hearing us earlier. We have quotes. We're trying to
Oh, I
move this
heard
right
you.
along. And I don't think we've said anything that we just want to sit back and let the expenses continue. So we're trying to move this along as quickly as we can. Most of the folks at this table weren't here when this whole thing got started. So I'm sorry it's in the condition that it's in, but we're doing everything possible to move this thing right along. So that's kind of where we're at. Thank you for your
This has
concerns.
existed for years. Nothing wasn't addressed.
Okay, well then,
Yeah.
it's clearly
It's
not our
not your
issue.
fault, right? What's
So-
the update on the insurance company?
The insurance company.
Yeah,
That Arlene had that sent in, right? And that's still,
It's not this, can we talk about it later?
Sure.
Oh.
Maybe we could save this for member comments. We'll tell you about the insurance claim, but it's not related to the repairs we're trying to do for the mold remediation.
that was, they said they put in a claim for the insurance company, came out here, looked at it.
My understanding is that the insurance claim was denied, unless Arlene, you have more information you'd like to talk about.
It was denied.
Yes.
I didn't, so I wanted to thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on this topic? Okay, moving along. So this is probably just a very small and short conversation, but on email addresses, as you saw on the agenda, I think everybody saw that we have new email addresses for several folks on the board and within the administration services. There's just 2 edits, or 3 edits I'd like to review just real quickly. We've made some further modifications, trying to keep these email addresses short and sweet, if you will. And so the first 2, under Vice President 1 and Vice President 2, we've consolidated that down or truncated it down to just VP1 and VP2. So if you would like to reach out at any point in time to Catherine or to Richard, it would be vp1.bod@brookridgefl.com, vp2 at brookridgefl.com. Also under the Director 1, we omitted the .bod, we've added that. So we'll have all these up on our website here pretty quickly, but just to let you know, there's a better way to reach out to us now versus trying to find our personal email addresses. We all have sort of official email addresses. Further, a couple of things we were trying to change was, for example, on Arlene, her email address was Brookridge Recording, but we made hers truncated to just gm@brookridgefl.com. So it's easy to remember and easy to find her. Additionally, for code enforcement, no longer will be our officer at brookridgefl.com. We've changed to just simply code enforcement. So if you want to send an email to code enforcement, it's just as simple as that. And then lastly, with Peter, we've changed his email address from captain@brookridgefl.com to supervisor CE for code enforcement at brookridgefl.com, just to try to, again, make it a little easier for everybody to reach out and communicate with us. And we will have these updated on the contact us on our website, if they're not already up there, coming soon. Moving to the next, excuse me, the next topic, cost reduction initiatives. So, as we all know, we're trying to figure out how to come up with some cost reductions. The budget didn't pass 54, and so we're trying to figure out how to operate under $50. We already know that this year we're most likely going to be in the red again. And so we've got to figure out what we can possibly do to operate within $50. So there's challenges, as you might imagine. And so there's a couple of choices we have. We have no intention of modifying or minimizing our amenities here in our community. So you won't hear us talk about clubhouse, pool, pickleball courts, tennis courts. That's not our intent to touch those. And I don't believe we have to. But there's not much left to think about when you look at our cost of operations. We have an operating budget and we have our reserves. So we can't use our reserves for operating. And the $50 is really how do we operate and how do we keep the lights on. And so there's really only a couple potential opportunities for us to consider. So we have the 4 different departments: administrative, public works, facilities, and code enforcement. Really, those are the 4 biggest things. Now, granted, we can increase revenues, and that would be helpful if we can figure out how to, collect some delinquent accounts. However, we're still stuck with 4 departments. When you look at those 4 departments, the biggest expense is the wages in those departments. Now, there's operating lines on what it takes for them to keep their own lights on within their department, and we can continue to look at those and try to be very responsible about staying within our line item budget items within those departments. But honestly, I think the only real opportunity is for us to perhaps look at some of the wages. Now, I'm not talking about reducing our wages per person, but we may have to consider how we lighten up our staffing in some areas, because that's the only way we're going to get this thing under control. So the area we looked at first was code enforcement. Right now, if you had your budget packet with you, if you go home and look at it, the cost of the wages, Social Security, medical, all of that within code enforcement is just under $500,000. And so I put together just a brief little summary, just talking about what opportunities we have. And so when you look at code enforcement, like I said, it's if you just stick with wages directly, there are $380,000 for wages for code enforcement. Administration's $185,000. Yes, we do have 1 less person in that office. We don't intend to backfill that position at this time. Wages for facilities were $175,000 and public works were $100,000, but code enforcement's $380,000. So the conversation I had with Arlene and Peter and the board, and I've heard comments from residents, is when you think about code enforcement, we have code enforcement, but I think there's also an element of their efforts that I would put into the category of either community safety or security. And it seems like over the years, just as an outsider, this is why we're talking about it, that a lot of their time and energy is driving around the community at all hours, 24/7. And some of the questions and challenges I've talked to Peter about is there other ways for us to do this? Do we really have to drive around with a vehicle, from when it gets dark until 6 o'clock in the morning, every day, 7 days a week? Yes, we'd like to think that we have a safe community, and that's important to us. But when you think about code enforcement, as a resident told me the other day, how many people are building fences in the middle of the night that we're trying to catch? I don't think that's the issue, right? So what are we doing? And where are we best spending that money within code enforcement? And so we're going to try to look at rescheduling some of the staff. It may be that we don't need all of the staff that we have in that, if we can try to reevaluate the staffing. But I think that's a question, that we all need to sort of think about is, do we need to have code enforcement act as community safety and security? And if we, the community, feel that that's a really important aspect of what we want to have here, then maybe we need to rethink how we budget for that in the future, and so that we delineate the unique distinctions between code enforcement and public safety. Because right now our code enforcement is, I think, kind of providing those services. And we obviously need to get down to $50. If we're not going to take any amenities away, which we don't intend to do, it's got to come from somewhere. And so we're going to be challenging all of our departments to look at what they're doing and see if there's anything we can do to find a few pennies. But that's sort of the biggest glowing opportunity in our mind to sort of rethink about how do we staff code enforcement so that they're doing code enforcement activities, and then how do we minimize the community safety opportunities. I'm not talking about reducing staffing at the gatehouse or at coming into our community, but it's really about, do we need to have code enforcement driving around, 24/7? And so we're going to think about how we can maybe do that differently. So that's one of the areas we're going to tackle. Comments? Help yourself to the podium.
Hello, my name is Roger Logan, and I'm going to support. I am a driver at night, and been doing it for 5 years now. We found last week 31 lights that are out. If there's not a driver driving around, you're not going to know about these lights. The overhead lights, street lights, and it takes them 2 months. They say 90 days or 60 days to fix them. Some of them have been out 4 months now. So we've had 2 hurricanes, and that's understandable, Since I've been driving around at night, I don't drive at midnight anymore. I'm in the second shift. So I'd like to speak with I'll go back a couple of years. One of the board members here, his name is George. Everybody remembers George. He gave the night crew $1 an hour raise because he thought we earned it. We do earn it because we do drive around and keep people safe. Well, we didn't get a raise this year. Supposed to got one in October, but I didn't get it because I already made over the minimum wage. And so that $1 raise I got doesn't mean squat anymore, even though we earned it. I should have been making $1 more. I don't get it. And I'm not complaining about that. I am worried about my position as a driver. I am a lieutenant now, or supervisor over the crew of 6. And I got the best crew in the world. I hate to see any of them lose any time. But the reason my time got cut, they took an hour away from me every night. And that meant that you weren't getting 24 hours a day service. You're only getting 23. Because we had an 86-year-old man in the guardhouse, unattended, alone by himself, for 1 hour every night. So that's what happens when you take hours away from people. Both guys in the guardhouse at midnight are in their 80s. Both of them. And they can't be, I had a guy get killed last year. That was at the guardhouse. That was at the guardhouse at High Point. So they gave me back my hour because they didn't want the other guy, gatehouse guy, to be alone. So anyway, there's a lot of things I think the board should think about as far as what we do.
Thank you. To the topic on the lights and checking the lights that are out, I think there's other ways we can also think about how do we put that ability for residents to let us know when their lights are out. And so, for example, we have 2 lights out at my house. There's one sort of to the left and one to the right. And my wife called in, talked to Arlene, and she simply said, all you have to do is tell us the number on the light pole and we'll submit that as a work order. And we did that. So. Sure, go ahead. So I guess while we're waiting for her to get to the microphone, I just think there's other ways that we can challenge ourselves to think about how do we make this work. And so that's what we're going to be looking at.
Antoinette Poskett, Unit 1, also an intended at the gate. I also like to elaborate on what Roger just said. I agree with him with the night drivers. I would feel safer having someone. I work at the gate second shift, 2:30 to 9:30, and I can tell you, the majority of the ones that you want to keep out come in after dark. Because we just had an incident the other night where somebody came to the gate, came flying in, first of all, got to the gate, shut off his lights, flew past us, despite what we tried to do to get him to stop. Went all the way down to Brookridge Boulevard, turned the corner, then turned his lights back on. We had no idea who that person was. Had that happened in the middle of the night, and we had our walkie-talkies, because we don't have the radios anymore, it's just cell phone, to contact our drivers and whatnot. We could have radioed them, look, this person just came in flying down Brookridge Boulevard in a dark SUV, whatever. Stop them. That's where my concern is. In every night, you do need a driver.
Thank you.
I'm not disputing the fact that we need to have somebody out there, but in a situation like that, that's where I feel that law enforcement should be involved. I don't believe that our community should be putting themselves in danger, chasing after somebody that went down dark, because that's what they call it. And I understand that, I'm just saying, I'd rather have them chase them down somehow than have the people in the community put themselves in danger for that.
But with that, at least our guys could at least found them and got a license, but not to, not to do anything, not to
Understood.
approach, but.
Correct.
Thank
Couldn't
you.
even get a license, but to give the police officers.
I think to that point, though, I think what we're trying to do is through the gatehouse renovations and trying to make sure we have the right gates, the right cameras, the right technology, that incident wouldn't happen unless they would have broken through the gate. And at that point, they're trespassing. We should have called 911. We would have had better cameras taking better pictures of license plates. So our goal is to try to find, better technology, opportunities, so that we don't have to get into a situation like that where the person's already inside the community.
It also happened with somebody that was banned from the community, hopping the fence to get to the pregnant girlfriend.
Thank you. So we're going to move right along to the next topic is Spectrum bulk rate offer. And I know everybody's sitting on the edge of their chairs just waiting to hear about this one. So to begin, I just want to at least say that we as the board, we as Brookridge, me as a resident, none of us have any, as I would say, we have no horse in the race on this one. There's no benefit for us as the folks that are sitting here. And so, although my wife has shared that there's been a lot of great information going back and forth on Facebook on this, I wanted to at least just sort of bring our points to this meeting. And that is, last week I got a phone call from Spectrum, it's called their business services department. And they called and said they would like to talk to us about a bulk agreement with Spectrum. So of course I said, well, we already have the marketing agreement that, we landed in. And so how does that affect the marketing agreement before we go any further? And I also said that before you continue this conversation, just know that we're going to come from a place of we don't trust Spectrum momentarily and how we sort of got there. So just know that as you start this conversation with us, you're going to have to start from a difficult point. And so they assured us that it has no impact on the marketing agreement. The marketing agreement is the marketing agreement, and we're stuck there for a while. However, this bulk agreement is something that it may make sense for us, it may not make sense for us. And after I go through the sort of finer points of this bulk agreement, if at the end of this conversation and whatever discussions and people would like to provide comments, if there's an interest to dig deeper and to learn more, we're happy to do so. If, the consensus from this room is basically hell no, then that's okay too. We'll leave it here and you won't hear us talk about it again. But the bulk agreement works generally like this. First and foremost, and let me get through all the points. First and foremost, it's 100% compliance, period. So it's not like we have a choice. Meaning, if we agree to do the bulk agreement with Spectrum, then every household is going to be responsible for the cost of this bulk agreement for them to have Wi-Fi and TV services. So that's kind of where it starts, and that's probably the biggest hurdle we have, but I want to put that out there first and foremost. Second, as a part of the bulk agreement, that would include bulk TV Select Plus, their entertainment and Sports View TV lineup, which is, I think, what we saw is what we put in the agenda. And I can certainly get anybody copies of that if you'd like to see. It's 300 or 400 channels. There's a lot of channels. It also provides a TV, streaming boxes, cloud DVR, or you can even have a DVR box in your home. It includes internet coming into your home at 400 megabits down. So I don't know if anybody ever really checks their speed coming into their house, but currently they've just increased their speed to all residents, so you should be getting 400 megs down. You can check that by simply going to speedtest.net at any point in time on your computer. Assuming your computer's on your Wi-Fi in your home or on your internet, go to speedtest.net and you can test the speed coming in. They initially offered, as a part of the bulk agreement, 1,000 megs down, but frankly, that's for a lot of gamers, and I don't see too many gamers in this room. So 400 megabits is pretty darn fast for just about anything you can do. Their rate would be $38 a month, and that would include the TV and the internet for $38 a month. It would be a 9-year deal because they have to kind of pair that with the marketing agreement. So we have about 9 years left on our marketing agreement. And then each year, there would be a maximum increase of 3% over those 9 years. So if we start out at $38 a month for internet and TV and your DVR box, if you take 3% over $38, I think it's like $1.15 or something. So if you extrapolate that out over 9 years, it's encouraging, but it would require that we are at 100% compliance within the park. And for those that, come and join us every year in November and then go back to wherever they go north, you would still be responsible for making those payments. So the question is, I've had mixed reviews in sharing this with some residents. I have some residents are in the $150 to over $200 range every month for their internet and their TV. So even if you were only here 6 months and you took $38 times 2, if you will, per month, and you let that pay for your year, is it something that's worth pursuing? And so without going too much further, I figured I'd just see if anybody would like to provide any commentary on the package. And while we wait for the first resident to come up to the microphone, I will tell you that the last time they offered Brookridge this bulk deal was in 2019. I had heard rumblings that it occurred in 2023 in August, but that's actually when the marketing agreement conversation started. So anyway, that said, that's all I've got.
Gail Metcalf, Unit 6. Am I hearing right that you said that the internet, the Wi-Fi itself would be included in this package?
Wi-Fi, TV, DVR box, probably remote controls, all of that for $38 a month.
I believe the last time it was presented years ago, that it was just for the TV, you still had to pay for your internet.
Based on the package they gave me,
Right, I
on
did
that
see that.
2019, it was $45 per month, and that was for internet and their Select 1 tier TV. So it's actually gone down, interestingly, but they like our business.
Aside from that, if you look around this community, there's a lot of antennas in this community. So we want to be really careful because look what the last board did. It put us in a really tough position with Spectrum. So I'd be very, very careful. That is a 9-year commitment. And
No, I think the last board was maybe a stretch in the way it got decided. I think it was the president that maybe made that deal without the board's knowledge and without communicating it with the members. When this deal dropped in my lap last week, I felt it was our due diligence and our responsibility to bring it forth, to say, does anybody have any interest? Or do you want us as a board to say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, we're not gonna tell anybody? So we just want to be transparent and say, look, here's the offer on the table. If we want it, great. If we don't, it's okay too. I don't have a horse in this race.
And I appreciate that. But that said, it was still the board that, even if it was just the president, it was the board that's running this community that made those types of decisions that they made. Even if it was just two people, it doesn't matter. It affected this whole community.
Agreed. And they also didn't take that agreement to our attorney to review
No,
it
they
for
didn't.
any fine print. So we're not going to do that. But welcome to the last board. I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Mike Rulo, Unit 6. Has there been any thought given on how you would administer the billing to each individual?
Oh, yeah, it's a general pain in the butt. Generally. So the way that would work, and Arlene would be the sort of the owner of this, the way that works, and it's entirely onerous on our administrative staff to manage this, but they would bill Brookridge, and then it would be up to us to bill each resident each month. And so it's not pretty, however, it's quite a savings for members. And so is somebody once told me, is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know.
My thinking is that we're going down a rabbit hole. Only from an administrative point of view. The board already has enough on their plate and the staff. And it's, what do you do when people default on their payment? You put liens again. We have quite a large number of liens as it stands, which is not bearing any fruit.
Yeah, you turn off their service when they use a house, the internet and TV. You still have to pay. No, we would have to administrate it and turn it off, and yeah, it's a lot of work.
Hi, Kathy Dillon, Unit 3. 2 questions. You keep mentioning $38 a month, but on this paper it says $48 a month. So is it 38 or 48?
It's actually 38. I just got the revised sort of offer from them last
Oh,
night.
okay.
So when I had to
That's
put the
even
agenda,
better.
so when I had to put the agenda topic on there, because I was kind of just talking to them, it just occurred.
Yeah. The second thing is I'm already paying over $50 a month for internet, so why would I not want the TV package also for the
Agreed.
same exact price?
Well, the 48 to 52 was for 1,000 megabytes down, and that's when I told them we don't have too many gamers in our neighborhood, so let's go down
Some
to
of
their.
us do, and it's
Well,
also good for streaming.
Well, it's 400 megs down streaming is perfect. You don't need anything more than that.
I've been on internet provided TV for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, but the TV, that's what I'm saying, for $38 a month, you're getting the internet and the TV,
Correct.
correct?
Yep.
So to me, it's a no-brainer to do it.
Well, that's why we're bringing it to
Right.
to us, the members.
I'm just
to
saying
say,
for other people when, that are listening, it's worth it. Because I'm now getting TV where I didn't have it before.
Agreed.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Sandy Hoos. Sandy Hoos, Unit 3. Again, like Gail said, this has been voted on before. It has to be voted on before the membership.
Mhm.
It can't be voted on just by our board. And I do streaming, and I get 400, from my internet.
Mhm.
It's perfect.
Mhm.
And I pay $80 a year to stream. And I can get almost any channel you want. No, it is not Spectrum.
Understood. That's why we're talking about
So
it.
you're,
paying for internet.
yeah, I do, for $79,
Right.
but that's still a benefit to me. There are so many people in here. Excuse me, it's my turn. It's my turn. Sorry. You need to come back up here if you want to talk. There are so many people in here that do not have internet or TV And I understand this might be a benefit for them, but it does right. It will raise every year, and their budget may not take it. I think we ought to have our own choice of what we want, no matter what it costs. If you want Spectrum, you pay the price. But if you want to stream or whatever, there are people that have streaming that don't cost them anything a month or anything a year. And they're good. Ours comes out of Canada and it's good.
Thank you.
And so I think that everybody really needs to think hard on this. It has to be 100% approved through our community. It'll never happen.
Agreed. Thank you very much for your perspective.
Antoinette Poskett, Unit 1, my question was.
Can you put your microphone on?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Antoinette Poskett, Unit 1, my question is, at the moment, I used to have Spectrum the first 3 years that I was here. Did not like it, had more problems with it, and it was almost $200 by the time, every month, it seemed like every other month they were going up.
Mhm.
Since then, I've gotten, the last 5 years, I've had DirecTV. And yeah, I pay a little bit more a month, but I get way more channels. I have less problems than I ever did with Spectrum, even during our bad storms, I still am able to watch the TV. My question is with that is, if the community decides on this, am I gonna have to change over? Because if so, that's against the Constitution for someone to dictate what you can and cannot use as your provider.
So it doesn't, just so we're clear, we're not gonna cut the cable for your DirecTV bump. You can still stream DirecTV. You'd be responsible for paying for the Spectrum services, whether you're using.
Well, I have Spectrum for my internet.
That would be part of this package. Yeah, you'd have two bills. You'd have your DirecTV and your
I have it
Spectrum.
now, like that as it is.
Sure.
So it won't, it's not gonna change.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Lucille Wyatt, Unit 4. It is a rabbit hole, believe me, it's a rabbit hole. It is not worth it. Other communities have tried to get into it and they've been stuck with it because of a contract. 9 years. 9 years. Are you gonna be around for 9 years? It's not worth it. Basically, they'll give you basic stuff, and then those that pay $200-300 for particular things they want, they're gonna still have to pay more. It's a big mistake if you go there. That's all I can say.
Great, thank you.
Alan Harrison, okay. We're getting back into contracts. Price is great. But the problem that the community has, okay, addressing this to get this price. The problem with the community is that we can't even collect our dues. And here we are, we're gonna try to collect Spectrum from these residents. Okay, so we're in a hole for collecting dues and Spectrum, okay, every year for 9 years. We can't get things straight in 1 year. And here we are doing contracts for 9 years, 5 years. How do we make changes and make things straight when we're giving these contracts away? I'm not against an employment contract in any which way. Okay, but I'm against an employment contract that goes for 5 years in a community when we can't get anything straight in 1 year and we're behind 3 years. Okay, nobody deserves to get a contract for a 5-year in this community. This is a retirement community. People come to work here, okay? It's a leisure job, it's an easy job. Okay? We can make it as difficult as you want to make it, but it is an easy job. And with Social Security, pensions, stuff like that, it's extra money, right? You want to go golfing.
I hate, this is a Spectrum conversation, and I hate to do this, but in member comments, I would love to be able to hear what you have to say. but this is about spectrum contracts.
Well, that's the Spectre contract.
It's
was
a
in the
contract, yes, I agree,
Okay.
but it's about spectrum itself.
All right, I'm
But
just putting it
I would
forward.
appreciate your input at member comments, though.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I have several resident comments. It all looks like James Bennett says, heck no. Christine Rouse says, no, thank you. Tim McMahon says, absolutely no. And Michael Duquette says it sounds great to some, but increases in fees, it includes increases in fees, and it's wasting time, we're wasting time on this.
Great. So maybe we can just take a quick straw poll. Any raises of hands that would like to continue to dig deeper into this conversation? Based on popular feedback, I think we'll just let this one die.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is a finance company. So one of the endeavors that we as the board have been looking into is trying to seek the services of a finance company that can take over our day-to-day, our month-to-month, and our yearly financial management. And so when we were at the HOA Expo about a month ago, or maybe more at this point, we connected with several management companies that offer specific modules to just deal with managing finances of an HOA. And so we're starting to look at and talk to some of these finance companies to understand what they can offer us as a finance management component of managing our finances. But it's something we feel it's probably important for us to pursue, just based on the way the finances have been managed over a number of years here, and the concerns, the challenges, and the supposed missing money, and everything else. So we're talking to and we're reaching out to a couple finance management companies. Specifically, we're trying to find somebody that would provide us with a on-site bookkeeper that would be on their salary, not ours, that would manage the day-to-day finances, that would understand and hear all the conversation around the water cooler, if you will. And they would be responsible, that finance company would be responsible for, supplying that bookkeeper, training that bookkeeper, replacing that bookkeeper in case they go on vacation, they decide to, seek gainful employment elsewhere. It would be up to them to find that bookkeeper and to manage that. There's a variety of technologies they bring to the table that we don't necessarily have today. First of all, they wouldn't be providing QuickBooks as a product. QuickBooks, although it has its challenges, we wouldn't be using that application anymore. And so we wouldn't have to, hire and pay for our own bookkeeper. It would be part of their agreement to manage our finances. But we've been pretty encouraged and inspired by the services they can bring our community, particularly with a lot of online services, scanning all of our invoices, putting them up in the cloud. So we have access to every invoice, every check, every bill, and we can see everything. They would also produce the monthly P&Ls, all the financial reports on a monthly basis. They would also put together a proposed budget for us to review. It doesn't mean that they're actually managing the budget process for us, but they would be, relying on the data that they develop out of, managing our finances, that they could come to the table to us with a recommendation of what that budget would look like based on all the financials that they've been managing for us over time. So that we're not starting from sort of ground zero and creating a budget each year moving forward. And so there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of value in us looking at that. And so with each of the board members, we've kind of issued out contact information, business cards. So Roberta's been making some phone calls. Catherine's making phone calls. I've made some phone calls. James making phone calls, so we can try to get some folks in to do a high-level presentation to us first and foremost, so we can try to understand the value they potentially bring to the table, and of course, at what cost. And then as we can kind of divvy it down to where there's only 1 or 2 companies or 3 companies that we think are worth considering, we would then have them and come in and do a presentation to the members so that we can see if there's value in pursuing this initiative. So I don't know if I have much more to say on the topic, but we'll open it up for questions and answers.
I have just one question, price, did you get any pricing?
It's way too early to understand their services and solutions and what the price is.
Okay.
But that's obviously very important for us as we know we have a very tight budget to sort of try to survive within this year.
Don?
Linda Walsh, Unit 4. You're calling them finance companies. I assume you're talking about accounting firms.
So there's a couple of companies we're talking to. I would say an accounting firm is probably in the realm of a couple of them. Most of them are large in managing HOA and condo associations, and they provide individual modules that you can sign up for them. So we're not signing up for them to sort of manage our HOA, but we can just sign up for just managing their financial component within that organization.
Okay, because I talked to some in the past, and they have, their own software that they use, and there was charges for that. We don't have any figures yet on what this will cost.
At this point, no, we do not. That's why we're bringing it to the members to say this is something we're chasing down. We're trying to get some high-level presentation set up for maybe this week, maybe next week. We're trying to move this right along. So we don't have any high-level costs at this point in time.
Okay, what about our books for 2024? I mean, this may take a while to get the finance company in here and set up. Has anything been done as far as reconciling 2024?
So that's not the topic of this conversation. We're just talking about the finance company. So the benefit of also working with I'll call it a financial management company is that they on their staff have their own CPAs so that they can manage our finances from day to day to having the support of a CPA that we can then take it to an auditor so that they can keep us consistently up to date and having all of our audits done on a yearly basis. The other benefit about working with companies like this is that this is what they do. They deal with HOAs in Florida. They deal with the Florida statutes. So they're up to date on all the requirements and all the legal practices that are required out there. So we wouldn't be in this position where we have audits that have been finalized for 2 years. We're already at risk of being turned into the state. So we're going to try to prevent that. But that's what the topic's about, just the financial management company. Thank you. Any other comments on this topic?
It's over here, Stop me if this is gonna have to wait till the end. But when you talk about a finance company, it's almost like saying a management company, except they're only gonna deal with finances.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's the component you're looking for, not a whole management company.
We're not looking for a management company to manage our entire HOA, although it's interesting here. However, we're looking for somebody that understands HOAs and that can offer specifically a financial module that's our only interest at this time.
Okay, then maybe I have to wait till the end for this other comment or question really. When we said we, I mean, the votes were that people wanted a forensic audit.
Mm-hmm.
How would that fit in with what you're talking about?
Let's save that for the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy Lewis, Unit 1. My question is, we already have an accounting system in the administration building, correct?
Called QuickBooks.
QuickBooks. And QuickBooks can generate financials. They can do everything that you're saying this finance company can do, shouldn't we just have maybe better training and use the software we have?
It's a great question. I think QuickBooks, while it seems to provide a solution for the way we use it today, I think QuickBooks is kind of limiting in its capacity to handle an HOA our size. Not too many HOAs our size use something like QuickBooks because of that very purpose. Great for very small business. We're pretty complex and not necessarily, a small business. And so I think it's actually limiting, and it's somewhat confusing. It's not cheap. And there have been errors to training, errors to, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but it is challenging. And so we're trying to figure out how to get us out of this rut that we're in. It just seems to be, something that happens here year after year after year with something going on with our finances. And so this is a solution we think is worth considering at this point in time to see if we can try to figure out how to take that issue of managing our finances off the table so that maybe we can have something else to focus on.
Steve Snutko, Unit 2. Just a couple of general comments. I commend everyone who runs for the board.
Move the microphone up a little bit.
Everyone who runs and serves on the board, okay? Finances, we all know, for years now, okay, is going to go into contention through no one's fault, okay? I think it's essential that we bring in a component like this, we hire a company like this. And I'll tell you why, okay? I think it's incredibly unfair to ask people to devote so much time, right, and their efforts and their skills, right, when they may not necessarily be up to the challenge through no fault of their own, okay? So what I'm making is that bringing up this forensic audit, we've got this money, whether we're missing it or we're not missing it, nobody really knows, right? It could be just a case of money being put in the wrong accounts, whatever. It's not fair to put that on someone, okay, who, number one, is not getting paid to do this, right? They're just throwing the duck. Leave this to professionals who's, as you said, hey, this is their job. This is what they do 24 hours, or 8 hours a day, 365, right? So the other thing is this, and this may or may not make sense, but I think in general, we have to start thinking in terms of not necessarily what something's going to cost us, but what it might save us, okay? And if a correct accounting, right, would have been done for years, we wouldn't be talking about where are we missing money? Is it gone? Where we're at? We wouldn't be talking about being 2 years in arrears in audits, things like that, right? So hey, sometimes it's better to spend money, and unfortunately, we don't necessarily look at what we might be saving ourselves.
Well, it's a really good point. And just on that topic, though, because as we had a conversation with our attorney the other day, seeking any input he may have as to firms he's worked with, because he does work with a lot of HOAs and other HOAs that have services like this and could be providing recommendations. One of the other aspects that he brought up was, besides managing our money and trying to take some of the challenges off the table from what we've just been discussing, is that they're associated to much larger organizations, and we also then get their purchasing benefits because of how they have contracts with a lot of other companies. So, for example, you pointed out, almost all of those folks have relationships with large companies that do asphalt work for roads and driveways and other things. They'll buy and have a much better component of purchasing power than we do. They manage amenities and poles all throughout the state. I think they buy chlorine cheaper than we buy chlorine. And so I'm not saying we don't have a good deal for chlorine, but there's other tangible benefits of working with a very large organization like this that we're just barely scratching the surface on what this potentially means. But I do think it could cost us a few pennies more, but in the long run, with some of the issues with managing funds, missing funds, whatever that is, what's really been the cost of that at the same time? Yes.
Kathy Martin, Unit 3.
Yes, it is.
I agree with the management company. Y'all find it's the same thing.
Finance management.
Okay, same
Yeah.
thing. Okay, I've lived in 2 of them. We never had to worry about where our money went. And the money that was spent, we'll talk about the trees and the road. We had a $5,000 cap. That's it. That's all they could spend. If they wanted to spend more, they had to ask the residents. Not the board, the residents had to approve it. So we wouldn't be in that situation if we had a cap.
I appreciate that.
And also, the forensic audit would not even be part of this because they would find it. If you're looking at a forensic audit, you're looking at years. Because the courts are behind from 2021. They're still. So the way the lawyers work, you go in, the judge says we're gonna put this off for another month. That could go on for 10 years. So might as well spend the money now and make it worth our money, and we will be positive. Not spending money foolishly like we have. $5,000 cap, and then we as residents vote for it, not the board. Nothing against you guys, but it's our money.
Yeah, and thank you for that. It's important to understand that just because we bring in a finance management company, the board still has a role. They still have to sort of work with us, the board, you, the members. Does it change how we, think about a finance committee moving forward to some degree? Is there a requirement? Is there a value? There's all kinds of ways we can rethink how we do business. And so again, we're just kind of initially scratching the surface on this, but we hope in the coming weeks that we can sort of bring one or two companies to the table, let them do a presentation, let them show you exactly what they can do, and then we can make a decision from there. Honestly, if we found the right partner tomorrow, we don't have any partner momentarily, but if we did, honestly, I think in talking to our attorney, we could probably put this deal together in less than 60 days. It's not something that's 6 months down the road. They do this all the time. There's HOAs all across the state. Our attorney works with those HOAs, so we're not starting from ground zero and coming up with something that nobody else is doing. We're probably one of the few self-ops the size that we are, with 2,830 lots. We're a big HOA, and yet we're one of the few self-ops in the state. So maybe we can learn something from that. Anyway, if there's no other comments on this topic, we'll move right along with the next agenda topic. Thank you for listening. So Richard, over to you.
Okay. This is new business, topic banking/CDs, including all other.
Call it point of order. That's a bylaw. The board cannot change that. It has to go before the.
I think it's important for him to finish his conversation, and then you can figure out if that's still something you want to talk about.
Okay, including all other interest-bearing FDIC accounts and instruments. Analysis. We need to make sure that any of Brookridge's funds which are being invested and reported to our membership are all wisely in FDIC-insured accounts. My recommendation, I recommend that for safety purposes, 4 officers or a quorum of the board give written authorization on any major movements or reinvestments of accounts, including CDs, before those actions are taken. My proposed motion is I make a motion to adopt the above as a GAAP, meaning good accounting practice method for the board of directors and our membership to be able to, quote unquote, follow the money, so to speak, as any movement of accounts into new banks and investments of our matured CDs are concerned. Our treasurers of the past have had complete control of our money, have put our money in different investments, different banks, without any of the other board members knowing where that money is gone. There's a bank account missing, according to Michael DeMars and Cynthia my mic, no, Riberio, who's, Mike DeMars is from Affinity CPA, and Cynthia is from Jones and Company, whom I've talked to. Evidently, our previous treasurer never resolved that issue to them, and there's a statement that our auditor has to put on 2022-23 audit to I gotta look at my notes if I can find it to get the right verbiage, if I can remember what the verbiage was. It's oh yes, it's a qualifying opinion that he has to make, and it does not resolve the issue of the missing bank.
You have a motion, you need a second?
Well, if there's a point of order saying that I do want to put this in the rules and regs, and I want to make an SOP about it.
Those in our bylaws. Article 11, section 1.
Linda Walls, Unit 4. It goes in our bylaws, Article 11, Section 1. And the residents vote on bylaws. That does not go in rules and regulations.
Thank you. I think what Richard's trying to bring up is, in the past, there's been limited tracking on where some of these activities are happening.
I understand that.
I'm still talking. Where one person has had the control to make all these decisions. And so unfortunately, we have a treasurer that's no longer with us, and we're still trying to track down some of the actions that individual took because we didn't have proper tracking in place. So I think what we're simply asking is, we're trying to make a motion on is that we're trying to set it up so that more people are agreeing on how we're investing our money and what banks and how we move money. That's simply all it is. We're just trying to
Right,
put
but
more
it's still a
checks.
bylaw.
So we're still trying to figure out how to put that together. So whether it goes in the bylaws, whether it goes in rules and regs, we can get there. I think the motion is we just want to have 4 people sign off on how money is being invested.
I understand that.
Great.
And that's the way it should be. But it is a bylaw, not a rules and regs. And if you look in our bylaws,
Read the bylaw.
Yeah, read it.
huh?
Read it.
Read it. Yeah.
I'm saying, why don't you read it?
Huh? This is one that's been voted on several times and been changed numerous times. The last time it was voted on, it was never recorded because of improper wording. The lawyer said that we needed to rescind that, which I tried to do back in August, and it was put on hold. BCPO funds shall be deposited in the name of the corporation and such banks, savings and loan associations, certificates, or money market funds as determined by the treasurer to be in BCPO's best interest with timely and proper notification to the board. Then they tried to change it several times, like I said.
How is this not timely notification to the board?
But you've got to follow our rules and regulations, our governing documents. Then they tried to change it to BCPO funds shall be deposited in the name of the corporation, any bank, certificate of deposit, money market accounts insured by the FDIC. The specific placement of any BCPO funds requires a simple majority vote of the board of directors.
I think
That's
I think
basically what I'm saying
That's what
here.
we're saying. So currently
Right.
doesn't exist, and maybe you've worked on it before, and so appreciate the feedback and update. Sounds like that's what we need to focus on, because that's simply all we're trying to do is protect our money.
Right.
So we
And
appreciate
that's what
those.
needs to be done, but you cannot vote on that. The residents have to vote on changing the wording because that's in our bylaws.
So noted, thank you.
Am I changing the wording?
Yes, you're changing the wording. I recommend for safety purposes for officers. You've got to change the wording in our bylaws to agree with this, and the residents have to vote on it.
I say 4 officers or a quorum of the board because we might not always have that amount, like we had this whole last year. So, we want to make sure that it's succinct, that, we're not stumbling over ourselves, so to speak.
Right, but you've got to change, if you're gonna do this, you can't approve it as a board. It has to be approved by the residents in our bylaws.
Great, well, thank you. So we'll table this motion for now, and we'll work on it. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, so, excuse me, so we're voting to table it, so who made the
Hear you.
Sorry. Okay, so
I'll
sorry.
make a motion to table this agenda topic.
Okay, second,
Second.
thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You have to do it officially.
Official.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're down to 10:17. We're at the report of the directors. So, table's getting thinner. Catherine, I'll turn to you and see if you'd like to do any updates.
Actually, I don't, the update that I would have would be based upon, help within the community, for the community, in order to be able to keep an eye on things that people might think are safety issues. We have a crime watch that is absolutely amazing. They go out there, they check things out, they want things to do, they're eager to be able to help out the community however they can. And I think that the streetlights would be perfect for them because they're out there after they have dinner, they're just out taking a quick cruise through the park. And if they notice safe streetlights that are out, I believe that that would be one thing that they would be absolutely willing to come back to us with. So that would save us that piece. Not saying that the jobs aren't important, but I believe that community involvement is important as well. And as far as the committees, we just wound up separating them up again. So I'm working towards getting back into mine, and I'll have an update the next time. So thank you.
Richard?
Oh, yeah, it's funny, Lucille, DeGuire, I believe it is, she was up here earlier. At her corner of Scepter and Admiral, there's a traffic light that doesn't go off. It's on all the time.
It's not a traffic light, you're talking
I mean, street light.
It's been-
Oh, it's fixed, it's finally fixed. Okay, so your calls out to them, worked, so everybody I have a street light right in front of my driveway, that I share with my neighbor. When it goes out, I make a phone call, and usually within a week, they're out there and they change it, and it's fixed. So, and it's getting darker earlier, so it's not like code enforcement needs to go around and check these lights. I think none of us go to bed at, 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock, I don't think. So please look at your street lights and report them, please.
I'll go last, and the only report I have is really more of an update. I won't be here at the next board meeting. I'll be visiting with my grandkids, so I'll be out the 17th of December through the 9th of January. So if I don't get a chance to say anything that's in the way between now and then, I hope everybody enjoys the best of the holidays and stay safe and enjoy the time with families. So thank you. With that, we'll turn it over to member comments.
Could I just jump in real quick? Rich Stratton just wanted to remind everybody that they are selling the tickets for Breakfast with Santa. They're in the library right now. They're here Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So if anyone is interested, you can purchase the tickets Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thank you.
Gail Metcalf, Unit 6. First, I'd like to thank this board for trying to be as transparent as you can. You're giving us a lot of information, finances and the gate and stuff, and at least you're bringing things forward. As far as the motion that you had made, Richard, yes, we have to look at our bylaws and everything separately, but it's not something, if you want to go ahead and do that as, as a protection, you can do that. You don't, the vote of the board, you don't need a vote of us. And we can, those of us that understand these things, and I think that's most of the people here, we all understand finances. And to want to stay true to the finances and make sure there are no mistakes made, I think it's a great idea. But you didn't have to make it, so it's just a thing, you could just do that. And then we can look at
I appreciate it because, we haven't been able to follow the money for quite a while.
Exactly. So that is, I just wanted to, it's a learning process with the governing documents and stuff. And on that note, unfortunately, Kathy and I have not been able to get together. Kathy,
And I do have your emails, and no, I haven't gotten back to you. I've been busy tracking down and chasing down an engineering firm and as well as finance companies, so,
and I do understand that, but I just wanted to give a shout out to the people that worked on this document. It was, let me see, it was Paul Campbell, Debbie Burns, Mark Whitley, and I'm thinking, Linda Toporski, and Daniel Bain, and they worked tirelessly. So I'm hoping that we can get together. And the other thing is that the Rules Committee was never abolished, and I'm hoping that you would take that into consideration, that there is still an active committee, and they are still willing to work with the new laws and stuff that have come out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Val Stratton, Unit 3. I'd like to give a social dance update. There is this Saturday, our monthly dance, and who's the band? There's always a good band, so come, there's still tickets available at the door. And there's a cutoff date for New Year's Eve that's fast approaching. We have to have the final count for food into the caterer, which is the person that bought and is being mentored by John Mason, so the food will be superb. So please give Patty a call because those numbers have to be in by December 10th. And then my question, when will we be able to get a printed audit from years 22 and 23? Have they finalized them and are they available for our residents now?
So Richard and I actually had a call with our CPA at 10:45, and we're trying to line up our call with our auditor for either later today or tomorrow. So we couldn't quite get you that answer quick enough, but those are lined up pretty fast.
Okay, and we're gonna start seeing current financial on the website?
We just got we just went live with the website, and I've heard there's a few sort of speed bumps we've hit, but we're gonna get that information up on the site. We obviously have a deadline by January 1st. We launched it a month early, so we're trying to work through some of those bugs momentarily, but yes, that will be there.
Thank you.
You bet.
Just a couple of comments in regards to, like Rule of Unit 6. In regards to contracts, in general, I think we should try and manage our contracts a little better in that schedules. If we hire somebody to do something, let's get a schedule in the contract if they are not on record. And there are ways of incorporating the penalties to the contractors should they slip on the schedule. It complicates the contracts a little more, there's got to be conditions, so on and so forth. I think we can do a better job on that.
Yeah, I agree. Those are kind of industry best practices, and we hope to sort of align ourselves with that.
And thanks for your job.
Thank you.
Still one, just basically yes or no. This missing CD or money, do you know where it is and how much?
No, that's why we line these calls up.
But you found out somehow that there's something missing?
I talked to Cynthia Ribeiro, I believe is pronounced her name, from Jones and Company. And I talked to Michael DeMars from Affinity CPA, who's the one who's doing finalizing.
And they think there is,
audit.
they think there is a CD out there that's unaccounted for?
A bank account.
A bank account, but they don't know where and they don't know the amount?
Well, the amount is between $140,000 to $150,000. That's missing.
Yes, which bank?
If we knew, we'd have it.
Okay, I'm leaving it right there.
So that call occurred, I think, just before Thanksgiving, and so
Yeah.
we've been trying to get these phone calls lined up.
And
so
I think the
launch.
treasurer was trying to get her handle on it, but she was only here being treasurer from June on,
Understood.
so give her a break.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, then last thing, I know you got a time schedule. What about this forensic audit that seemingly people have voted more to get it done than people that say let it go?
So the forensic audit is, to some degree, it's interesting when we put that out for the members to vote on. It didn't kind of require a vote. But, sometimes it's good to make sure the members are in agreement with what we're doing, right?
Okay, so we do know
So,
that.
That said, there are specific areas that we think are worthy of digging into, very specific areas. And so when you do a forensic audit, we can specifically give them a very narrow scope of effort to focus on. So it's not just broad-based and, we don't know when it starts and when it ends. So we're not quite there yet, but we're going to help define a sort of scope of work. And I think this will be in sort of part and parcel with our CPA and our auditor, and then obviously we'll have a contract reviewed by our attorney to make sure that we understand exactly what they're focusing on, where they're going to look, and what the cost will be. And so when that happens, we'll come back with more information.
Okay, but once you get costs and all that in place and how far you plan to go and what areas you plan to go into, does it have to be that the membership agrees to that cost?
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's It's not that we're trying to be as completely transparent with everything we're working on. That's
No,
what I said, when we
I'm glad
understand how it
you're
comes
there.
back.
Right, yeah.
So when we come back and say, here's what we think the investment's gonna be and where we think we're gonna hope to find some results, we'll have another conversation.
Okay. If you were to find a person that'd be willing upfront without cash involvement until there's something to put your claws on, would you be willing to talk to that person?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
If there would be a person that would be willing to check into it and help you understand where there might be problems, would you be willing to let that person get into it?
I want to say yes. I think there's a qualifier there that I'd like to talk to that person, understand their skills and abilities and, what they bring to the table and how they're going to do it. And so I want to say yes, but I think there's some qualifiers there before we say yes to that.
Yes, I understand that part. Thank you very much.
You bet.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Dale and Arsenal. Okay, getting back to the contract thing. Again, let's state, I'm not against contracts. What I say they do is put us in jeopardy down the road, and locking us into 5-year contracts and things like that are just not needed. Employment contracts, yes, we can give an employment contract for an important person head of a department and things like that, but it should only be given on a yearly basis and reviewed every year to renew it on a yearly basis. No longer than that, because we don't know what's going to happen from here to tomorrow. Okay, how things change, how they feel, how they feel at that time in a year's time with us, that type of stuff. So I think it should be a rule that if you're going to give it, well, first of all, my first question is the contracts that were put in place, were they valid? Because we had that question before. We never received and for sure that they are valid because they didn't go to attorneys.
So I'll answer your first couple questions and I'll answer your last question.
Okay.
So the first couple of comments perhaps was, that that you don't have a problem with an employment contract, nor do I. I've worked with unions, which is essentially an employment contract for years in California and Washington, D.C. There's nothing wrong with an employment contract. In fact, I found in my history that when a leader has an employment contract in hand, they feel like they can point to something to get the work done by the employee that's under the contract. It's actually easier to manage people with a contract. Now, that said, the issue we had with the contract was it was not discussed with the board, it was not reviewed by our attorneys, and so there was no input whatsoever, and they were signed without authority. However, they're binding. And so out of the 4 contracts, actually we just dissolved 2 of them, so we're left with 2.
What were they term-wise? What were the contracts term-wise?
The 5-year terms.
The 5-year terms. Okay. So that's what I would like to say that we should have something in place that we don't give any more than 1 year term, and then we can reconsider.
Sure, we have something in place. It's that, they shouldn't be signed by 1 or 2 people at the board. That's what's in place.
Okay. That relates to all other contracts, we were talking about the Spectrum contract,
Right.
all those contracts.
Yeah,
That's my opinion, I
we
guess.
would be here with Spectrum, the marketing agreement, if we just stayed to how we're supposed to do it. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rich Stratton. Just to give you a little idea of the background, years ago, I was treasurer. Arlene was my go-to person. Everything on a CD I had in front of me. I had every money at the bank, their cell phone number. Not the bank number, forget that, the cell phone of the person with our money. You think that's important? Very important. So if there was a change or something, I could get them on the phone immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week. I had every account in front of me. And the board, in the morning at the office, which I was with Mark Keller, I had a report from Arlene. All the money came in, all the checks written, Checks went out, who signed them, what date, and what time, what they were for. I can't see why we can't have that now. It's so simple. It's like your checkbook. Do we have a checkbook to look at? I haven't seen a report anything on our money.
Rich?
Yeah.
How many bank accounts do you have compared to how many bank accounts Brookridge has?
I managed about maybe 20, 21 accounts here in Brookridge. Even the bank accounts that were in New York.
No one out here has that many bank accounts. I grant you.
But I worked it. We even had accounts in New York on the internet for CDs. You know about that? And we had right. It's just business. Somebody's got to be every day what's going on in this area. It's our money. A daily basis, not monthly, not weekly, daily.
I think to that point, that's why we're considering this finance management company to help us with that process.
Okay, that's great.
I appreciate what you're saying.
That's great.
I think what you're saying is it's important for, somebody from the board, the treasurer, to be there every day, but we're still volunteers,
I understand that, but if you're volunteering, this is $1 billion we're talking about. $1 million. I understand that. So you'll interview these people on this finance committee coming in, right, these people? So say we pick on George Martin. George Martin, how long have you been there? 5 years? What's your background? Are you gonna go into these people and ask them basic questions, or just leave the guy from the board and take care of it? You wanna find us with these people, take care of our money. Am I saying that?
Is there a question?
Yes. When you hire these people and they put somebody in charge of us, are we gonna interview that person directly and see where they've been, what they've done in their life?
So if we hire a finance contract management company, however you want to sort of phrase that, they'll provide the bookkeeper and they're responsible for hiring them and training them and understanding their background.
But I wanna find out where they've been, what they've done, who trained them and everything else.
We're gonna leave that up to the finance company.
Is that us?
Pardon me?
No.
No, that would be up to them.
And we still have a treasurer being our liaison between them too.
Who's our treasurer now?
That we're working.
Thank you. Any other member comments?
Roger Logan, Units 4. You guys talked about this new finance committee you want to hire.
Put up your mouth.
And I was just curious, how come you want so eager to spend more money when you don't have any money to begin with $50 a month? How are you gonna pay for this stuff?
We anticipate that it would be a return on our investment, because right now, as we just had a conversation with a missing bank account, it's that issue we're trying to resolve. So yes, I understand it sounds contrary to, we're talking about reducing staffing and yet we want to spend some money, but we're trying to spend money to save money. That's really the intent. And to do the thing to save money appropriately and to track our money.
You also mentioned, constantly you mention other HOAs, hundreds of them. You never mention how much people pay at those HOAs.
Hundreds.
Hundreds, I know. People live in Timber Pines pay $312 a month. What's $252? $52 was for Spectrum. Now Spectrum's over 90 over. Just give you an idea,
Thank you.
And,
we're done with spectrums. Don't worry about
I know, but still, if you're short money, well, you better start thinking of a special assessment.
Vince, was there anything on YouTube that you saw?
I have it over here, actually. Real quick, hold on, sorry. So when they were talking about the missing bank account, they have it in quotes, Mr. Bennett, James Bennett, if there was a missing bank, report matter to sheriff, no more missing about. Then when we talk about the bylaws, Mr. Thomas Fryman, Unit 2, There's a bylaw that says the board has to approve all financial transactions. And then we were talking about the streetlights, Anthony Langone on the streetlight, just give with the Gucci a call, give him the phone number. Then I sent that to the restroom, but I believe Ms. Val was talking about the audit. James Bennett, there we go again, excuses for the audit. And then Anthony Langone, most likely the money is gone, but the forensic audit will help us find where it went and how it got there to hopefully prevent this from happening again. And then Karen Henry, anybody in the community can apply to be on the board, and there is no requirement for them to have any experience or knowledge to be on the board. That's pretty much it from YouTube.
Thank you.
Linda Walls, Unit 4. When are you going to get a treasurer so that my name can be taken off all of the accounts?
So Ms. Walls, I think the last time you talked about this, you threatened legal action. And so I don't feel compelled to go so much into this, and you can have your attorney reach out to us. But I will tell you, we've had several road trips last week before the holidays to get your name off the account. Your name is off of most of the accounts. Due to the holidays and the schedules, we haven't completed that round, and we will complete that round this week. So hopefully this will be the last time I talk about that.
Okay, because I'm still getting notices for the bank statements and stuff. Is anybody in our admin office getting the bank statements?
If they come through the mail, sure. And which one are you referring to specifically? Is it like Bank OZK or Regions or?
I got Cap City.
Okay,
You're off of Cap City, you're off of Truist, and you're off of Brandon.
Edward Jones and
Not yet,
OZK,
not yet.
because I'm getting still
Your
getting their
past
statements.
president had a month to deal with that. So we're
You
still
could
cleaning
drop
this mess up
the
again.
statements off with our name if you would
I
like.
don't want to open those emails up,
Don't open them, just forward them.
but they gotta have my password and everything to get into them.
We'll figure it out. Thank you for your time. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
Favor?
Aye.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you all.